Raghav Mehra, Naina Kulkarni, and Arav Singh seemed like any other happy newlyweds on a dream honeymoon in Mexico. But one photograph would shatter their world, exposing secrets, lies, and a chilling murder that no one saw coming. Please subscribe for daily new update of crime story and watch till end. Raghav Mehra and Naina Kulkarni appeared to be a modern Indian couple living a settled life in the United States. Both had moved from India years earlier for higher studies and later found stable jobs in New Jersey. Their families were proud of them. Friends described them as quiet, ambitious, and focused on building a future. The wedding was arranged with mutual agreement, blending tradition with independence. There were no grand celebrations, but everything looked respectful and happy. Photographs from the wedding showed smiles, rituals, and calm faces that suggested trust and comfort. After the wedding, the couple returned to their apartment and began planning their honeymoon. They wanted something different from the usual destinations. Mexico stood out because it felt adventurous yet safe, romantic yet affordable. Beaches, resorts, and privacy attracted them. Raghav handled all the bookings. Flights, hotel, local tours, and even transport were planned weeks in advance. Naina shared the excitement with close friends and posted about the upcoming trip online. From the outside, everything seemed perfectly normal. The couple left the United States early in the morning, carrying light luggage and big expectations. Airport cameras later showed them walking together calmly. There were no visible signs of stress or tension. Immigration records confirmed that everything was legal and smooth. When they landed in Mexico, resort staff welcomed them warmly. The hotel was surrounded by palm trees, blue water, and quiet walking paths. It was designed for couples seeking peace and privacy. During the first 2 days, Raghav and Naina behaved like typical honeymooners. They explored nearby areas, took photos, and ordered room service. Their social media accounts showed happy moments by the pool and at sunset viewpoints. Friends in the United States reacted with likes and congratulatory comments. No one suspected anything unusual. Behind the screens, however, small details were already out of place. Hotel logs later showed that Raghav frequently visited the reception desk alone, asking about exit routes, local transportation, and night security timings. These actions did not seem alarming at the time. Naina spent long hours inside the room, skipping some planned activities. Staff assumed she was resting. The couple did not argue publicly, and there were no complaints filed. Silence filled the spaces where laughter was expected. Financial records would later reveal that Raghav checked his bank account multiple times during the trip. Large transactions made before the wedding had already raised quiet red flags, but no one noticed them yet. The honeymoon, which was supposed to mark the start of a shared life, was slowly becoming something else entirely. Every decision taken during those early days carried a hidden purpose. To friends and family back home, this was just another newly married Indian couple enjoying a foreign vacation. No one imagined that this peaceful beginning was carefully constructed. The smiles, the photographs, and the calm setting created a convincing picture. But beneath the surface, something dark was already moving, waiting for the right moment to turn a dream trip into a permanent nightmare. By the third evening of the honeymoon, the mood around the couple had subtly changed. Resort employees later recalled that the energy between Raghav and Naina no longer felt warm or relaxed. They were seen walking together, but not speaking much. During dinner hours, only one meal was ordered to the room instead of two. Housekeeping staff noticed untouched pillows and a growing distance in their behavior. At the time, these details felt unimportant, but they would later become crucial pieces of the story. The following morning, Naina did not step out of the room. A scheduled snorkeling trip was cancelled without explanation. Raghav informed the tour desk that plans had changed and requested a refund. Security footage showed him pacing near the beach for long periods, repeatedly checking his phone. His movements were restless, unlike the calm tourist behavior seen earlier. Meanwhile, Naina's phone activity suddenly dropped. There were no messages, no photos, and no online posts from her account after that morning. As the day progressed, Resort staff noticed Raghav moving alone across different areas of the property. He was seen near the storage sheds, the rear garden paths, and the less lit sections of the resort. These were areas guests rarely visited. Late in the afternoon, he returned to the room carrying a small backpack that had not been seen earlier. Housekeeping logs showed that he refused cleaning services that day, which was unusual for honeymoon guests. By evening, weather conditions began to change. Clouds covered the sky, and the beach emptied earlier than usual. Around this time, witnesses remembered seeing Naina briefly near the lobby, appearing tired and distracted. She did not interact with anyone, and returned toward the private resort path leading to the rear jungle area. This would be the last confirmed sighting of her alive. As night fell, the resort quieted. Most guests stayed indoors due to light rain. Security cameras captured Raghav leaving the room just before midnight. He was dressed differently from earlier in the day, and was not carrying his phone. He walked toward the darker service path rather than the main exit. The cameras lost sight of him after a few minutes. An hour later, a staff member reported hearing a distant sound coming from the jungle side, but it was dismissed as wildlife. No further checks were made. When Raghav returned, he entered the room briefly and then left again, this time heading toward the parking area. His behavior appeared rushed and tense. The next morning, checkout time passed with no response from the room. When staff knocked repeatedly, there was no answer. Management unlocked the door and found the room partially packed. Naina's luggage was still there, along with personal belongings. Raghav was gone. There was no sign of a struggle, but the silence inside the room felt unnatural. What initially appeared as a simple change in mood now looked like a carefully unfolding sequence. The sudden shift in behavior, the cancelled plans, and the late-night movements all pointed to a moment when the honeymoon stopped being a celebration and became something far more dangerous. When the hotel staff failed to locate Naina by late morning, concern slowly turned into alarm. Resort management contacted local authorities and began a basic search of the property. At first there was hope that she had gone out early or chosen to walk along a nearby path without informing anyone. Staff members checked the pool area, restaurants, spa rooms, and nearby shops. Her name was called over internal communication systems, but there was no response. The silence around her absence felt heavy and unnatural. Police officers arrived at the resort by early afternoon. They began by examining the room. Everything appeared strangely normal. The bed was made on one side and untouched on the other. Naina's clothes were neatly folded in her suitcase. Her sandals were placed near the door. There were no signs of forced entry or visible damage. However, her passport, phone, and handbag were missing. This immediately raised suspicion. It suggested that she either left intentionally, or someone made sure those items were removed. Investigators expanded the search beyond the resort. Attention quickly turned to the jungle area behind the property, a place guests were warned not to visit alone. The terrain was uneven, filled with rocks, thick plants, and steep slopes. Search teams moved carefully, calling out her name while scanning the ground for signs of movement. Less than an hour into the search, one officer noticed disturbed soil near a rocky edge. Naina's body was found at the bottom of a narrow slope. She lay in an unnatural position, partially hidden by plants. There were visible injuries, but nothing immediately explained whether the fall was accidental or forced. Her jewelry was gone, but there were no marks suggesting theft. The location was isolated, yet not impossible to reach. The scene felt staged, neither clearly violent nor clearly accidental. Forensic teams secured the area and began documenting everything. Footprints were difficult to identify due to loose soil and overnight moisture. No witnesses came forward. The absence of personal items added more confusion. If she had fallen accidentally, why were her phone and passport missing? If someone harmed her, why leave the body where it could be found so easily? The case was initially treated as a suspicious death rather than a confirmed murder. Local authorities contacted the Indian consulate and U.S. officials because the couple were American residents. Media interest began growing within hours. A honeymoon death involving foreign nationals attracted attention quickly. Meanwhile, immigration records revealed a shocking detail. Raghav had already left Mexico. He had crossed into the United States early that morning. This discovery changed everything. What had been a missing person case instantly became a manhunt. Investigators now viewed the scene through a different lens. The husband was no longer a worried partner, but a person of interest. As the sun set that evening, the resort fell into an uneasy quiet. Guests whispered, staff avoided eye contact, and police lights reflected off palm trees. What began as a search ended as the start of a complex international investigation. Naina's death was no longer just a tragic incident. It was the first solid step toward uncovering a carefully hidden truth. Once investigators confirmed that Raghav had left Mexico hours before Naina's body was discovered, the case took a sharp turn. Immigration records showed that he booked a last-minute flight under his own name, passed security without issue, and landed in the United States before authorities even realized he was missing. This timeline created a disturbing contrast. While police were searching the jungle for his wife, Raghav was already crossing borders, moving farther away from the scene. Mexican officials immediately shared this information with U.S. federal agencies. What made the situation more serious was that Raghav did not inform the hotel, the police, or even family members about his departure. There was no report filed, no explanation given, and no attempt to cooperate. His sudden exit appeared calculated, not panicked. This behavior alone was enough to shift him from a possible witness to the primary suspect. Back at the resort, investigators revisited every detail of Raghav's movements. Security footage was reviewed frame by frame. They traced his path from the room to the darker service areas, then toward the parking zone. Staff interviews revealed that he had asked unusual questions about exit routes days earlier. What once seemed like curiosity now felt like preparation. Each small action began forming a larger pattern. In the United States, Raghav's phone records showed that he turned off his primary number shortly after landing. He did not contact Naina's family or his own relatives in India. Instead, he used short internet-based logins from public Wi-Fi locations. This suggested an effort to avoid tracking. Financial records also raised concern. A large amount of cash had been withdrawn shortly before he left Mexico, enough to survive without using cards for some time. Media coverage intensified quickly. Headlines described a honeymoon gone wrong, focusing on the missing husband and the mysterious circumstances. Public pressure grew on U.S. authorities to locate Raghav. His photograph circulated across news platforms, immigration alerts, and law enforcement databases. Yet for several days, there was no ace of him. Meanwhile, forensic experts in Mexico continued examining the scene. They determined that Naina's injuries did not fully match a simple fall. Certain marks suggested impact before the drop. This information was shared with U.S. investigators, strengthening the suspicion that her death was not accidental. The absence of her belongings now looked intentional rather than random. As days passed, investigators built a timeline connecting Raghav's actions before, during, and after the trip. His calm behavior at airports, the clean exit, and the lack of emotional response painted a chilling picture. This was not a man fleeing fear. It was someone executing a plan. The international nature of the case made progress slow but steady. Each country handled its part, sharing evidence across borders. While Naina's family mourned in silence, authorities followed digital footprints and paper trails. Raghav's disappearance was no longer just about where he went. It was about why he left so quickly and what he was running from. As investigators in the United States searched for Raghav, another team began examining his life before the honeymoon. What they uncovered slowly destroyed the image of a stable, successful husband. Financial records showed that Raghav had been struggling for more than a year. Credit card debts were high, loan payments were overdue, and several warning notices had been sent to his address. Despite a steady income, his expenses far exceeded his earnings. This financial pressure had been carefully hidden from family and friends. Further investigation revealed multiple online accounts linked to Raghav, that were unknown to Naina. Some were used for gambling platforms, others for short-term investment schemes that had failed. Large sums of money had been lost within months. Bank statements showed repeated transfers between accounts, suggesting attempts to delay detection. Each failed effort pushed him deeper into debt. The stress was building long before the wedding, but it was never spoken about openly. Investigators then discovered a life insurance policy taken out on Naina just 10 days before the Mexico trip. The policy amount was unusually high for a newly married couple, and Raghav was listed as the sole beneficiary. The timing immediately raised suspicion. Insurance experts confirmed that the policy became fully active on the exact day the couple arrived in Mexico. This detail transformed the case from suspicious to deeply alarming. When authorities contacted the insurance company, they learned that Raghav had asked detailed questions about claim procedures weeks before the wedding. At the time, this was recorded as normal inquiry. Now, it appeared strategic. Combined with the financial pressure, the honeymoon destination, and his escape route, the picture became darker and more deliberate. Digital forensic teams examined Raghav's devices recovered from his apartment in New Jersey. Deleted search histories were restored. They included searches related to accident claims abroad, death investigations in foreign countries, and legal delays involving international cases. There were also searches about jungle terrain near the exact resort they visited. These discoveries suggested planning rather than impulse. Emails recovered from encrypted folders revealed messages to unknown contacts discussing money problems and deadlines. Though no direct crime was mentioned, the desperation was clear. One message referenced a final solution to financial trouble. Investigators could not ignore the connection. Meanwhile, interviews with Naina's friends painted a heartbreaking contrast. She had spoken about future plans, career growth, and starting a family. There were no signs she feared her husband. She trusted him completely. This trust became one of the most tragic elements of the case. As evidence stacked up, investigators realized that Naina was not just a victim of circumstance. She was a part of a calculated plan. The marriage, the honeymoon, and the choice of location were no longer random life events. They were steps in a hidden agenda driven by debt and desperation. The image of Raghav as a loving husband collapsed under the weight of documents, data, and financial truth. What remained was a man who saw escape not through solutions, but through destruction. The investigation was now focused on proving what had already become painfully clear. The investigation reached a critical moment when digital analysts began reviewing data linked to Naina's missing phone. Although the device itself was never recovered, cloud synchronization records revealed that some files had automatically backed up shortly before the phone went offline. Most of the data was ordinary, including earlier vacation photos and short video clips from the resort. Then investigators noticed a single image saved at an unusual time, just minutes after Raghav was last seen heading toward the jungle path. The photo was blurry and poorly framed, as if taken accidentally. At first glance, it seemed meaningless. But when technicians enhanced the image, small details emerged that changed the entire direction of the case. The picture appeared to be taken near a roadside stall outside the resort's main area. A cracked mirror hung on the stall's wall, and within that reflection was a partial image of a man standing nearby. That reflection was unmistakable. Facial recognition software matched it to Raghav with high confidence. He was wearing dark clothes different from those seen earlier in the day. His posture looked tense, and his head was slightly lowered. The most disturbing detail was visible on his left sleeve and hands. There were dark stains that forensic experts later believed were consistent with soil mixed with blood. The timestamp of the image matched the estimated time of Naina's death. Location metadata placed the phone near the jungle access point, not inside the resort. This contradicted the idea that Naina had gone there alone. Investigators now believe the photo was taken unintentionally, possibly during a struggle or a moment of panic. It became the silent witness no one expected. Further analysis revealed that Raghav's wristwatch, visible in earlier footage, was missing in the reflection. Days later, a broken watch matching its description was found near the slope where Naina's body had been discovered. This physical evidence linked the digital image directly to the crime scene. Experts testified that accidental photos often occur when a phone is gripped tightly or falls during movement. This supported the theory that Naina's phone had captured the image during a critical moment. The phone likely went offline shortly after, either damaged or intentionally destroyed. What remained was the one image Raghav failed to erase. U.S. investigators now had more than circumstantial evidence. The photo connected Raghav to the location, the time, and the physical condition consistent with the crime. Combined with his sudden escape and financial motive, the case became much stronger. Law enforcement agencies circulated the enhanced image internally. It played a major role in securing warrants and accelerating the search. The investigation shifted from building suspicion to preparing for arrest. What made the image powerful was not its clarity, but its honesty. It was unplanned, unfiltered, and untouched by manipulation. While Raghav had carefully managed documents, travel routes, and financial trails, he had overlooked one thing. Technology remembered what he wanted forgotten. That single photograph turned a complex international mystery into a near-complete puzzle. It revealed presence, timing, and truth without words. In a case filled with silence and denial, one image spoke louder than any confession could. With the photo now central to the case, U.S. authorities intensified their search for Raghav. Digital tracking showed brief online activity across multiple states, suggesting constant movement and deliberate avoidance of detection. He avoided hotels and stayed in short-term rentals paid for in cash. Surveillance teams coordinated across jurisdictions, slowly narrowing the pattern of his travel. Each step he took left a faint trace, and those traces began to form a map. Investigators focused on areas where Raghav had distant acquaintances, but no close family. This reduced the risk of him being reported by someone who knew him well. One such location was a quiet residential area in Texas. Internet logins from a public library and a nearby cafe placed him within a narrow radius. Vehicle rental records, though incomplete, suggested he had access to a car under a false name. After weeks of surveillance, authorities located a small apartment complex that matched the activity pattern. The unit was sparsely furnished and recently rented. Trash collected from the site contained packaged food, prepaid phone cards, and printed news articles about the Mexico case. This confirmed that Raghav was following media coverage closely, adjusting his behavior based on updates. Law enforcement planned the arrest carefully, to avoid risk. When officers entered the apartment, Raghav was present alone. He had altered his appearance by shaving his beard and wearing glasses. Despite the sudden confrontation, his reaction was controlled. There was no resistance, no attempt to escape. This calm response reinforced investigators' belief that his actions were calculated rather than emotional. Forensic examination of his belongings revealed more connections. His shoes carried soil particles that matched samples taken from the jungle area near the resort. Clothing found in the apartment showed traces consistent with earlier damage, though most items had been washed repeatedly. A prepaid phone recovered at the scene contained fragmented data pointing to earlier communications during the Mexico trip. During processing, Raghav avoided eye contact and offered no explanation. He did not ask about Naina or express confusion about the arrest. His silence was noted by investigators as significant. Extradition procedures were initiated immediately, as Mexico requested his return to face charges related to the death. Legal teams prepared to challenge evidence, but the case was already strong. The photo, the financial motive, the insurance policy, the escape timeline, and the forensic matches formed a solid chain. Each piece supported the next, leaving little room for doubt. News of the arrest spread quickly. For Naina's family, it was not relief, but confirmation of a truth they had feared. A man they had trusted with their daughter's life was now in custody, exposed by his own mistakes. As Raghav was taken away, the investigation entered its final phase. The search was over, but the story was not. What remained was the process of justice and the lasting impact of a crime that began with a wedding and ended with a calculated betrayal. The investigation finally reached its conclusion, and the truth behind the so-called perfect honeymoon became clear. Authorities pieced together every detail of Raghav's actions, motivations, and planning, revealing a chilling story that had been hidden behind smiles and social media posts. The honeymoon, once a symbol of love and joy, was now recognized as the setting for a calculated crime. Every choice Raghav made, from the destination to the timing of the trip, had been carefully orchestrated to hide his intentions. Experts studying the case noted that Raghav had selected Mexico for its combination of remoteness and international jurisdiction. He knew the local terrain, the resort's security limitations, and the challenges authorities would face in investigating a foreign crime scene. The isolated jungle path where Naina was found was not accidental. It had been chosen to reduce the chance of witnesses. Even the timing of their daily activities was manipulated to create gaps in observation. His escape plan prepared in advance ensured he would be out of the country before anyone realized something had gone wrong. The photographs and videos shared online by the couple during the honeymoon became a haunting contrast to reality. While friends and family saw sunsets, smiles, and romantic gestures, Raghav had already started distancing himself from Naina during those moments. Investigators determined that the cheerful images were captured after tense confrontations and were designed to maintain an appearance of normalcy. The digital record, which once seemed to celebrate love, was now evidence of deception. The single photo captured from Naina's phone proved to be the turning point. It was a moment Raghav had overlooked, a silent witness that revealed his presence at the scene and his state of mind. Forensic analysis confirmed that the soil on his shoes and the damage to his belongings matched the crime scene. Investigators concluded that Naina's death was not accidental but a result of deliberate actions that day. The timing of the life insurance policy and the financial pressures added to the motive, leaving no ambiguity about premeditation. Raghav's careful planning ultimately failed because of the small, unanticipated detail of technology. The one photo he could not erase became the key that unraveled his entire plan. Authorities emphasized that this was a rare example of digital evidence bridging borders and time, proving critical in an international case. For Naina's family, the revelation was both devastating and clarifying. The woman they loved had been betrayed in the most intimate and calculated way. Yet, the exposure of the truth allowed them to understand the circumstances fully and find a measure of closure. The narrative of a dream honeymoon turned nightmare underscored how appearances could hide dangerous intentions. The case also left a broader message about caution, trust, and vigilance. While Raghav had manipulated itineraries to deceive those around him, the combination of forensic science, digital evidence, and cross-border cooperation ensured justice could follow. One overlooked detail, a single photograph, demonstrated how even the smallest piece of evidence could illuminate a carefully concealed crime. In the end, what started as a story of love ended as a chilling reminder of betrayal, greed, and meticulous planning. The honeymoon murder was not just a headline but a lesson in how hidden truths can surface unexpectedly. It was not witnesses, confessions, or coincidences that solved the case, but one silent, revealing image that exposed everything, forever changing the lives of those involved.